that says that the only institution to lose trust around the globe is media. Over the last 3 years, trust in the media has fallen from the 48 to 45% among all the informed publics. With this dispersion of traditional media authority and the rise of opinion journalism, trust in the institution as a whole was waned. What do you mean, Franek? You have a view from just different part of Europe. You lived, if I'm very informed, in exile in Vilnius?
No. I live in Belarus, of course,
So
I live in Belarus, and I would like to change a little bit the geography of our discussion, because we are speaking all the time about Western countries, free societies. But
first time globally now.
Yes, in global sense. But Václav Havel, for example, he was aware about non-free societies, about transition in that countries. As Professor Radishova said during the first opening session, she said one of the sources of the current democratic deficit is the mediaification of politics. It's absolutely right, and I will add and politicization of media the same time. And I would like to speak about a very important problem, not just for a free society, but also for non-free countries. Advocacy, political advocacy, and journalism. Where is a border? What is the difference? Why and how journalists can be lobbyists of politicians. And I would like to separate countries on three groups. There are free societies, which we were discussing before, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Great Britain, USA as well. Free societies, of course, there are medias closer to this political force, closer to that one. There are partly free societies, and there are non-free countries. And I would like to speak about second and third groups of countries. Belarus is my country. It is not far away from here. You can just fly there, be there in 1 hour and a half. Belarus is a partly free, in media sense, country. Why partly free? Because medias are formally independent of the government, are formally independent of the politics. But sometimes politicians, authorities, make media oppositionists. You know, in my, for example, I was a student of journalism, faculty of journalism. I was writing articles, I was not simple, but journalism, but it doesn't help, it doesn't save me from arrests. So 4 times I was arrested for organizations of different manifestations, actions, just because I've participated in these actions. Do you know, I think my colleagues or participants of discussion, they remember Soviet, how to say, not Soviet time, but yeah, the times of Soviet Empire. And in every country there was a newspaper, one newspaper. In Rude Pravo in Czechoslovakia, Pravda in Slovakia, Tribuna Luda in Poland, and others. Now in Belarus, we see the process, which I can name like neo-Sovietization. Oh no, it's better to say re-Sovietization. Mm-hmm. It's not just specially for Belarus. It is very, very symbolic. It's the same in all countries to the east of Poland, to the east of European Union. You see also the processes in Ukraine, in Caucasus states. In Belarus, October the 1st, Belarusian government, dictator Lukashenko, I wouldn't like to mention, to name him president, dictator Lukashenko unified all newspapers in only one. Soviet Belarus, Belarus Today. Unified one newspaper, 500,000 circulation, which be distributed all over the Belarus. The same is going on with state TV channels. Finances to these state TV channels, to these newspapers are going from the state budget. And of course independent medias created by Belarusian citizens or broadcasting from abroad, like Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, or Belsat TV from Poland, they are not able to concurrent. Just example by finances, like state controlling by finances medias. State TV, Belarusian TV, they are getting 53 million of donation of finances every year, plus advertisement, income from advertisement. Bielsat TV, which broadcasts from Poland, has only $6 million, for all the year and no advertisement. What does it mean? That independent TV channels, the same as independent newspapers, are not able absolutely to be concurrent, to compete with state medias. Also, I would like to tell about attitude of government toward medias. Lukashenko, dictator of Belarus, who is who many times positively mentioned Adolf Hitler in his speeches. Now he can use slogan, one people, one nation, one leader, and one newspaper. Really, when the Belarus government engaged with the media, it routinely uses the language of war. Speaking at Belarusian State University, where I was studying, and after that was expelling for my political and journalism activities, he said, media hold the weapon of a most destructive power. They must be controlled by the state. Lukashenko told to a group of journalism students at the university. And you see, here we have another problem of these non-free societies. Where is the border between propaganda and real journalism? And the most harsh thing is harassments of journalists. Just example, few days before elections, 1 month ago, the journalist, photographer of Associated Press, Sergei Gryts, he was harshly beaten by police when he was filming, when he was making photo of the oppositional action, and he was arrested and he was bleeding after it. Anton Surapin, 20 years old photographer, who just published photos in his own personal blog, photos of teddy bears, which was, airdropped by Swedish human rights defender to Belarus. He was detained by Lukashenko security services and spent more than 1 month in the prison just because he published photos in the blog. How we can tell about independence of medias in this situation? All of the majority of my colleagues and the majority of you remembering, Soviet times, 68, and the same processes are going on now in Belarus. And foreign free medias. Now, I'm working for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, We remember, maybe the majority of you remember, as a media that helped, that brought democracy to your countries. Now, in Belarus, Radio Liberty is needed as never. It plays the same role it was playing during Cold War in 60s, 70s, 80s. And government is taking journalists of independent medias, of Bielsat, of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Radio Racja, the same as oppositionists. And very often we see as journalists are playing more important role and sometimes are harshly more seriously repressed, suppressed, and threatened as opposition. And in that case, I see the solution. I see the solution how to avoid these problems, how to resolve these problems. First of all, to use new media. Of course, it's a topic for another discussion. How to use social media, social networks. I think that citizen journalism, for example, in the case of non-free or partly free societies, it's a solution, how to avoid this discrimination, these repressions provided by authoritarian governments on the example of Belarus.
Thank you for that. It could be interesting to know more about it. How is the access in Belarus to the foreign media? Or you mentioned you are working for RFE. You mentioned the station, the TV station broadcasting on phone. How is the access really? What about the access to internet? Is it absolutely free or?
Yesterday there was a discussion during Forum 2000 about social medias in Belarus, and we decided that social media it's like a panacea, for Belarusian civil society. Half of Belarusian has access to internet, but as you mentioned, they use the internet for entertainment. And it's very difficult to engage people, to make them interest to politics, what is going on in their countries and in countries abroad, foreign countries, you know. So they have access to state newspaper, which is everywhere. They don't have access to foreign medias at all, only by websites, you know, but they don't know how to find them. Usually they don't know foreign languages, you know, and this all creates this barrier, you know, in building contacts with foreign countries. And that's why between Belarus, Ukraine, there is a Chinese wall, informational, Chinese and cultural as well, wall, which we together, I hope, should bury.
Yeah. Professor Radish, of course.
Only short comment.